Normally I'm really crafting the artwork through an algorithm, which is a very explicit method for creating the artwork, but there are many ways to take that same approach and methodology and translate it into another format. So even when I'm drawing by hand or painting by hand, I like to craft a method and think a lot about the process and the rules that are going into how I create that artwork. So I'm not worried so much about the exact specifics and details of what I'm doing. Instead, I'm really interested in if I craft this set of rules and follow it from start to end, what kind of artwork comes out, and leaving some things to chance really helps to loosen the artwork in some beautiful ways. Working from a sketchbook has always been a big part of my process. It really helps me get outside of my usual processes, helps me to generate new ideas, and they have that analog warmth and imperfection really naturally that can help to inspire the work even when I approach it digitally as well. Even when I'm sketching, I'm really thinking about how do I look at this from kind of a rules-based perspective. I'm trying to keep it intuitive, but I can't help but analyze things through the lens of algorithms and parameters. So I have a very methodical exploration even in something like a sketchbook. The computer almost always finds a way to work itself into the middle of a piece of artwork. It really tends to be at the heart of my work. So often I'm using programming, even if the final work is going to be physical. I might use programming to really figure out the details of the design, to test out multiple different ideas. Maybe I'm taking the output from the program and using the plotter to get it onto paper where I can work on it by hand. The final step in the work, the final form of the work can happen in many different ways as well. Sometimes I'm really pleased with just a purely digital output. Sometimes I feel the work is best served by translating it into a physical format. Sometimes it's sort of a hybrid of the two. There are many different ways those two worlds can relate, and my process for creating them really depends on the specific work that I'm looking at. Some of the artists that I really feel this work closely relates to, the first that come to my mind would be Agnes Martin and Frank Stella. I think Agnes Martin did such a beautiful job of setting up this really clear structure in her work, and by executing it manually, she really allowed room for it to be imperfect, and I think there's almost something very generative about the way she approached her work. Frank Stella as well, almost by taking such a minimal approach to his work, he almost really highlights the imperfections there and the physicality of the work. And both of those, I think, really speak to the aesthetics that I'm interested in for this show. I hope that when the audience sees this work that they're able to engage with it in a purely visual way. Some of these works really require the viewer to slow down and maybe take a little bit longer look at some of these. They're not necessarily my loudest works. In some ways, they're my most subtle works. And sometimes I like the work to force the viewer to slow down a little bit to really appreciate it. And some of these works are more of a slow burn. And so I'm especially pleased that we have such a wonderful venue to show these works physically where people have the best opportunity to do exactly that and to really appreciate the work.